Welcome, everybody, to the Be Your Own Hero podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Renew, fantasy author and entrepreneur, and I am super excited to have another fellow author and entrepreneur here on the show today, Kristine Newell, who I am thrilled to be able to call a friend and a colleague. I've known Kristine for quite a few years now, and we met through the Sotheby's International Realty family. And when I learned that she released her book, I was so excited. So I'm thrilled to have her on the show today to really dive into the book because it's a very impactful book, and I know that you'll feel that way when we talk about it. So her book is called The Habit of Grateful, a handbook for gratitude, and it really helps the reader discover the transformative power of gratitude in your life. And I can definitely testify that that is what I have experienced. So I can't wait to dive into this really impactful topic. So hi, Kristine. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here, Brittany. I'm also a super fan of yours and all of your work. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have some time with you today.
Yay, thank you. I know, well, we don't get to necessarily see each other all the time. So this is selfishly awesome too. Well, so let's kick things off and just share with the audience a little bit about your backstory and kind of what led you to publishing the book. Oh, and you know what? I have it here. So let me show it for everybody. Yay.
Thank
Look at that pretty
you.
cover. I love the color scheme. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, I have actually been in the real estate industry for about 23 years and have had the privilege of, being a real estate agent, working my way up through management, being a regional manager, and then being a senior vice president for a very large real estate company. And, one of the things I really learned on my real estate journey is how life can be such a series of ups and downs. And I got married very young. I was a baby. I was like 20. And I just kind of threw myself into this thing called life and definitely had my share of ups and downs and went through a really tough time, many years ago, about 15 years ago, as so many people did. And when I went through a really tough time financially, personally, emotionally, went through a divorce, kind of hit rock bottom. When I had to recover from all of that, gratitude really emerged as a life raft for me. And I always have been a writer, just it's one of those things that I've always done to release tension, to tap into my creative self. So I've always been writing poems and stories. And I started just journaling many years ago about what I was going through. So fast forward a few years ago, a friend of mine said, I'm taking a book writing course and you should do it with me. And writing a book has always been a bucket list item for me. It's always been one of those things. I knew I would do it. But in my mind, I thought, I'll have all this time to rent a cottage and write for 3 months. And I kept waiting for this perfect opportunity to write a book. And then I realized life is never going to give you me a perfect time to write a book, right? That's how life works. There's never a perfect time for just about anything. So I committed to my friend because I felt like I needed that support and needed the accountability, enrolled in a writing course to write a book. That was the goal. And it took me about 1.5 years to write the book. And I'm just so happy that I did it. It felt like such a big accomplishment to be able to really share my story. But it also allowed me to take all that gratitude research I had done and bundle it so that anyone can pick up the book and immediately understand the benefits of gratitude and use them.
Yeah. Well, having read the book, I can tell you that you definitely achieved that goal of really expressing what gratitude can do for you. And it's funny that you talk about how life doesn't give you that perfect opportunity. We do often wait for permission, I guess, from life, from others, I don't know,
Yep.
to dive into our dreams. And yeah, you eventually just learn, oh, if I don't do it myself, it's not just going to fall in my lap.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's again, I say this often, but that's why I titled this podcast Be Your Own Hero, because we really do have to take charge of our lives and our dreams. No one's going to come save us. We have to be the hero in our own lives.
Absolutely.
So talk about how you became the hero in your own life when you discovered gratitude.
Oh, for sure. So I like to go back to that one of the toughest days of my life. And I was going through a divorce, had 3 little kids, was selling real estate full time. So I had to provide for my family. And the economy suddenly really shifted, back then, about 15 years ago. A lot of us went through that the kind of the financial mortgage real estate bubble burst, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Yeah.
So everything really constricted. And just one day I was trying to make dinner for the kids and realized that, I had no food in the house, nothing to really whip together for dinner. And not only that, but my checking account and savings account were just about at nothing. And so at first I couldn't believe I had let things get so bad because I was really living in a state of denial. If you've ever been to that state, denial, a lot of people live there. I had moved there
Yeah.
and was living there full time. But in that moment, I'll never forget, I collapsed to the floor because I realized I didn't have butter. And what kind of a mom doesn't have butter for, her three little kids? And, just had a full on sobbing, crying breakdown on the kitchen floor. And then looked up to see three little faces above me, are you okay, mom? And they were quite young at that time. So, look, I had to get up off the floor. I had three kids.
Yeah.
Wallow, right? Had to figure stuff out. But sometimes when you hit rock bottom, you give yourself permission to then start going up.
Mm.
And what I recognized a few days later when I got some help, and I'm so blessed to have an amazing family, to have amazing friends that really helped me get by a super tough time in my life. And I recognize that everyone out there might not have those resources,
Mm.
right? I was very blessed and continue to be very blessed. But once I was able to get on my feet a little bit and bought, groceries for the house and had some money so I wasn't freaking out, I looked at the food on the table when I was having dinner with my kids, and I thought to myself, I am so thankful. I'm so grateful for this food. I'm grateful for, I think we're eating like mashed potatoes, and grateful for cupcakes that I made for dessert. And I'm grateful that I have three children, that I'm a mom. What a privilege that is, that I have a house, that I have resources, that I have hope in my heart. So at that
Mm.
moment, I looked around at the table and I started doing these gratitudes. And that really turned into a daily habit for me where I'd wake up every single day and I would immediately start naming off all the little things I was grateful for. Sometimes it was a clean towel, right? Sometimes it was running water. Maybe it wasn't hot water, because again, it took me some time to rebuild my life.
Mhm.
But I would cling to each one of these things almost like a life raft. And I would find that when I would think of that one thing I was grateful for, it would actually make me feel calm. And suddenly I went from having nothing to having everything.
Mm.
So,
Well, that's a huge, wow, what a huge perspective shift. And I mean, that makes me think of like you hear people talk about victim mindset. So going from that victim mindset to having that hope that things will get better if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I love the fact that you brought up the butter moment because that's like one of my favorite moments from the book. And you kind of weaved that theme throughout the book with that moment with butter. And but it's a good reminder of just being grateful for the little things, because when we do that, it changes our perspective so much, and then we're able to push forward. So yeah, I love that so much.
yeah, I think also a big thing that you brought up, the victim mentality, which we all have to fight every day to not live in the victim mindset. And we're human, so sometimes we're going to get there. Gratitude is the easiest way to get out of that victim mindset. But also asking yourself, am I in the love channel or the fear channel? Because the fear channel is the victim mindset that everything is going to, blow up. It's a problem. Everyone hates you. The world, it's just like all the bad stuff, all those bad voices in your head or the negative self-talk. That's the
Hmm.
fear channel. If you can switch to the love channel, you will automatically be able to banish that negative self-talk and the negativity. And gratitude is the easiest, fastest way to get to the love channel. And the love channel is being self-kind to yourself. And it's getting into that state of positivity and abundance that, okay, I may not have it figured out right now, but I know I'm going to get there. And that there are so many people in this world that are willing to help me if I just lean into that. So I think always asking yourself, am I in the love channel or the fear channel? And using gratitude as that method, it really works. It's pretty amazing.
Huh. I don't think I have ever really thought about it from that perspective of a love channel versus a fear channel. That's really cool. It's a cool way to think about it, because I think it does help in your mind, like think about it in two different camps. Like I'm over here afraid, which means I'm, you got tunnel vision, like you're only focused on the lack versus over here in the love channel where like things are flowing to you because you see the love and opportunity out there in the world. That's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, what would you say to someone who is skeptical that gratitude can work in that way? Because I think sometimes people hear these types of things and they just go, "Oh, that's too woo-woo or new age or whatever." So, what's your answer to people that say that?
For sure. Yeah. So the first thing is there's a tremendous amount of science that has been out starting in the 70s, but especially over the last 10 years, there's been so much science.
Mhm.
And Dr. Robert Emmons is one of the leading scientists, and has all kinds of books written on gratitude. So I studied him quite a bit. And I mean, if you just start to look up the benefits, the scientific benefits related to, first of all, your health. So studies show that those engaged in a daily practice of gratitude, and that's key, right? It's not just saying thank you once in a while. It has to be an intentional habit of gratitude every day, and we can talk about that. But those engaged in a daily practice of gratitude, number one, the physical benefits, better heart health, better sleep, improved immunity, but overall, from a mental health perspective, feeling happier, less anxious, less negative self-talk, improving relationships. So what was fascinating to me is when I really dug into the science, and I go into that in the book, and they actually have done MRIs of people's brains before and after having a habit of gratitude, and you have more activity in your frontal lobe of your brain. You also have higher levels of dopamine and serotonin when you engage in gratitude. And
Mhm.
in fact, when you look at some bigger studies, just in terms of like sociology, over time, we know that we're a social society, meaning we need others to live, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to caveman days. And gratitude, saying thank you, that encourages others to enlist your help or give help to you and be in a social society. So even like when you go way back to caveman days, you see these themes of gratitude everywhere. You see them in religion. Every religion basically, has
Mhm.
elements of gratitude. So I think to the skeptic, my advice would be just try it. Try it for 30 days and then make your decision. Conduct your own experiment. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't work for you, like there are other tools and other things you can work on. But what's interesting is I feel many people are just learning about a daily intentional gratitude practice. And those that are trying it really are amazed at the results.
Yeah. Yeah. I experienced that myself. And I think I would say probably since about 2019 is when I got into like a better morning routine and started journaling and practicing gratitude. And so I can 100% tell you that it made such a huge difference. And specifically, you mentioned this, like the psychological benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a history of struggling with anxiety, just,
Mm-hmm.
to that point of almost gripping, where you can't function and can't move forward. And, that was more so in like my college days. I struggled with that a lot more. But, I think as an adult, I got to that state of like where it's just like that constant buzz where it was always there of like worrying about the future. And what I found was gratitude really helped me stay in a better perspective and stay in a positive mindset. And so I was then looking for more opportunity and abundance in my life instead of focusing on the negative. And I think I equate it to working out. It's just like that muscle that you build up, the more you do it, the
Mm-hmm.
less time I spend in those moments of like gripping anxiety. It's not like a magic pill. It's not like it's gone forever and I never experience it, but I can definitely say that my levels of anxiety have improved so much with the practice of gratitude.
Well, that's great. That's awesome, Brittany, that you're using gratitude in that way. And I'll tell you, you're not alone. I feel like 90% of the people I talk to have, anxiety or have had anxiety. I know I also have it from time to time. I think like, it's rampant right now. And I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's social media or just there's so much going on all the time. But what's interesting about anxiety is the more you worry about what you don't have, the more you tend to attract some of that. And
Mm-hmm.
when you shift yourself into a state of gratitude, suddenly you recognize all the blessings you have, right? Even very small blessings. And therefore, you're able to attract more. Because I firmly believe that, you are the only one that can control and decide the way that you feel, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are 100% in charge of your own emotion. And in fact, when you can feel positive about yourself, banish the negative self talk, live in that authentic self. And for me, telling my story of financial ruin, I mean, like that was really scary, because I'm supposed to be this like perfect professional,
Yeah.
and
Good
God forbid,
pencil.
I went through a tough time and I'm sure, there are people that think of me different, but that's okay because it was part of me being my authentic self, scars and all, the
Mm-hmm.
ugly, the good, the bad, because at the end of the day, each of us, we have that. So the more comfortable you can be with yourself in that authentic state, also you'll find that coupled with being really grateful for everything you have, it acts like a magnet. Like it attracts really good stuff in your life. It attracts things, it attracts people, and it helps you to become more intentional about what you want. And so I think when we talk about raising our vibration level in life, being with other like-minded people, gratitude can help get you there. It can really be the life raft or the vehicle to get you there.
I love that. Yeah. Attract. Yeah. It's much easier to attract stuff to you versus feeling like you're always pulling and pushing and, in the rat
Yes.
race, as they call it.
Absolutely. And I do also believe that people pick up on our energy as
Yeah.
people, and so when you meet somebody, you pick up on their mood. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, you better be in a really good mood. And again, I'm not suggesting life's perfect. We're
Mhm.
all going to have bad days, but the key is learning to live in that positive mindset so that you can really help others. Because I also believe that one of the great things about gratitude, it takes the focus off of you. So,
Yeah.
people get very self-obsessed with themselves and thinking, oh, this person's thinking of me, or they're not calling me back, and telling themselves these stories. Like we all become a little too self-obsessed. But
Yeah.
gratitude can help you take the focus off of yourself and put it onto other people. So when you think about what you're grateful for, but who you're grateful for, that's my favorite one. And you start to identify some people in your life, or your dog, or your parent, or your spouse, or your partner, or your friends, right? That you're grateful for. And then you tell them, like literally just pick up the phone and you say, hey, I'm really grateful for you. Thank you so much for whatever, anything, being my friend, calling me the other day, just being there. When you express that gratitude to someone else, it helps you take the focus off of you. And then what you do is you actually help someone else have like a spark of kindness in their day. Because what's interesting is when I did a lot of research on happiness, because I'm always asking this question, how do we become more happy? What's even the
Mhm.
definition of being happy? I've found that one of the keys to all is feeling that we matter,
Mm.
right? So to most people, I would say almost 100%, at the end of the day, a life well lived is feeling like you matter. And so when someone calls you and says they're grateful for you, or they appreciate you, or in the conversation someone acknowledges you, it resonates on a deeper level. And there's nothing more beautiful than telling someone you appreciate them.
Yeah, it's that sense of community, sense of belonging that we were all made to have, so that makes sense. Yeah, I love that. And I think that I was just thinking as you're talking about that, it kind of correlates back to the love channel or the fear channel. Because when we're thinking, when we are self-absorbed and thinking about, oh, what's this person thinking about me, or why aren't they calling me back? Whatever those little stories we tell ourselves are, it's like we're trapped in that fear channel because we're making it all about us instead of making it
Yes.
about other people and loving on other people and serving other people. And that's what I found in life in business is just if I can get the focus off of myself and think about serving other people, it also helps take the anxiety and the fear away. So
Yep.
it's like a cycle. It just all works together.
It does. It does. I think it's, first of all, having awareness, for people to be asking themselves, do I need to make a change in my life? Am I feeling a certain way? Being aware of the need for change or the need to implement something like a gratitude practice. And I
Mhm.
think trying it for 30 days, especially in the morning, is the easiest time to kind of focus your energy on gratitude. That's the best place to start. So,
Yeah, I think doing anything on a daily basis, consistency, I mean, that's the key there, just to kind of get you, I mean, that's what's going to change your trajectory that you're going on and get you out of that funk of fear and, all of that. All those negative emotions, like we live there too long. Um and I think the other thing that was coming up for me as you were talking about that is just like resiliency. So as you live in that consistency of a daily gratitude practice, it's like building that muscle. And life's going to throw things at you, but because you've built up that resiliency from the practice of gratitude, it's going to help you not stay in that negative space for very long. So that's what I've experienced, is as time has gone on, I stay in those low moments a lot less time than I used to. And I mean, has that been like your experience as well?
for sure. I mean, for me personally, gratitude gets me much faster. It acts as kind of a like an immediate dose of positivity
Mm,
that can get me out of a funk. But also, to your point, when I feel myself getting into victim mindset or upset about something, I don't stay there long. Where I used to dwell there for like days and days and days, now it's pretty quick. And a recent experience I had was, being in the hospital with my father, and he was quite ill. We didn't know if he was going to make it, so I spent
mm,
like 3 days in the hospital with him, my family, and I will tell you that having gratitude to use for myself was a huge part of getting me through those few days. And
mm,
him and I talked about it a lot together because at the end of the day, he had a pulmonary embolism, but he had some treatment options. They were all scary, they all had risk, right?
mhm.
But one of the things we talked about is in that hospital, probably on that hallway, there were people with life threatening conditions that had no options. They had no options. My
Yep.
dad still had options. So we were able to kind of look at it like that together, which was actually really scary, but soothing. And we really stayed very positive and really tried to use positive visualization and got through it. So I do think that this is such a good tool, not only for an everyday practice, but when you have a crisis, when something happens
Mm.
to you or a friend, you can use gratitude. You can really lean on it as a go-to way to help you get through it.
Yeah, it's almost like mirroring concepts of acceptance. So accepting the reality of what's going on, but then using gratitude to help bring you into that positive mindset to look for the hope, look for the options, and which again just definitely flips your perspective. So that's cool. Yeah. Well, I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about, like you mentioned this earlier, the vulnerability of sharing your story and just being your authentic self. So you had to come to grips with that to be able to write the book and share it with the world. And I think there's so many people out there that have a story that's worth telling. And number one, they don't think it's worth sharing. But number two, they're scared of, I guess, I don't know, I think it's scared of judgment of other people, just being vulnerable. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to share their story, but they're scared?
Well, I think first of all, there's a saying that your story may become someone else's survival guide,
Mm,
and I feel like the stories of others help me through my hardest times in life. So I think writing, about that time and everything I went through was very challenging. But I said to myself, I'm going to write it and then I'll decide if I'm going to really publish it, right? It's kind of the
yeah.
writer's way around. I'll just write it, because I do feel when you're writing, you need to give yourself permission to be raw and vulnerable. So I actually, just wrote it very raw. And then in the editing process, I wanted to make sure at some point my kids had a look at it, and I wanted to kind of change some pieces of it just to protect the privacy of others. So I did just a little bit of tweaking. But at the very end, my husband read it before I sent it to the final, the draft to the publisher. And he was like, okay. He's like, number one, this is awesome. Like, your book is great. But number two, like, are you really going to put this out there? Because he said, I'm a private person. I really don't want my business out there. People did not really know how we met, including his parents. So he's like, are we really doing this? And he's like, I'll support you 100%, but I just want to like make sure you're ready.
Yeah.
And I appreciated his honesty, but I felt that I had to be my authentic self. And I had to if I was going to write this book and I really wanted to, that I'd do it. I'd rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And I was a little scared, to be honest, of what some of my friends might think about me, some of the people in the real estate industry.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so amazing is so many people reached out to me and said, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your failure. And people would then proceed to tell me all about their personal failures, whether it was a life failure, a marriage failure, a family failure, a financial failure. And they said, because you did it, I know I can do it, meaning like I can go on from this, or that, thank you for letting the world know you're not all perfect, because I think people make an assumption when you meet a successful person that they're absolutely perfect. They have no problems and they're perfect. And that is a fallacy. No one is perfect. We're all bruised, broken, scarred. We've all been through something. And so a lot of people reached out. And then what's been so amazing is even yesterday, I had someone call me and she said, I need to tell you, thank you for writing this book. You made it okay. I just went through a really tough time. And I read your book and I feel like because you shared your story, I can do it. And she then said she disclosed some things that she was going through. And she said, I didn't feel as much shame. I'm working through it because you went through something similar. And I've had people going through a divorce reach out to me. I mean, it's been incredible. So that's been worth it. Like, even if one person read the book and they said, okay, this helped me, that for me has always been worth it. But it was really scary, to put it out there. I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. So,
yeah. Gosh, yeah. I mean, but that's such the cool part, is to hear from other people saying like how much you made an impact in their life for the books. That just, you're like, oh, okay, yes, that's why I did this. That's such a cool moment.
yeah. And I think also people have said the book comes alive for them in some of the story. I mean, although the gratitude research and method is great, people have enjoyed the story, and there is like a romantic twist in there because, I went through a divorce, a single mom with 3 kids, eventually was ready for love again. And, people are like, I wondered if you'd end up with so-and-so, I don't want to ruin it if you haven't read the book, but there's a little bit of a twist there, which I think is really fun. And I'm so proud to be married for 13 years now to my second husband, and he is just my best friend and such an amazing person. And I feel like the way that we met and everything we went through has just made our bond and our relationship so strong. So that's kind of a fun section of the book for me.
Yeah, well, I do agree that the way that you weaved the personal stories through helped all of the very practical stuff land much better. And it made it a really enjoyable read because you're just kind of like going on the journey with you, which I'm sure that was, your intention. And yeah, so I even remember, because I was grateful to get to read an early copy of your book when you were releasing it. And the timing of when I read it, we had just lost my grandfather, which was my mom's dad, and he was the kind of the patriarch of the family. So it was a really rough time, and it had just happened. And by reading your book, it really helped me process grief in a way I wasn't expecting. And so I think that that's like another aspect to it, and just like to your point of the power of changing that perspective and thinking of of the positive things. It really does help you process whatever trauma that you're going through, because again, it's changing that mindset. So you're focusing on, like for in this example, I was able, helped me really focus on all the positive things, memories I had with my grandfather, just some of that stuff. So yeah, so thank
Uh,
you for writing this
Absolutely.
book.
Thank you. I'm so glad it resonated with you in that moment. Um, dealing with loss is always so difficult. So I'm happy it was able to help give you some solace, in that moment.
Well, so I would just say, like, to kind of wrap things up, what would be, in summary, like what's kind of that message that you want to send to out to people that are, reading your book, like to for someone that hasn't read your book yet, what would be that message of hope that you would hope they would get out of reading your book?
Oh, let's see. Well, I think first of all, having intention, that is something I'm really exploring right now. So what that means is having a life of intention in which you really put out to the universe what you want so that you can attract it. And I think in being very intentional, having a daily practice of centering yourself, having gratitude, and then having positive affirmations or a mantra, I think it's so crucial now more than ever to make sure that you are very focused, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day. Be very intentional. We each have one precious, wild, amazing life. And what are you doing with that? It is a gift. There are people waking up today that may not have, as much time as you and I have left, right? And so we have to remember that every single day is such an opportunity. It's such a gift.
Hmm.
And if you can not only help yourself be so intentional, but you can then help others and you can lend a little kindness, tell somebody you appreciate them, lift someone up. That is what it is about. So my hope is that, anyone listening, you can create the life you want with intention. And it all really starts with gratitude. So that would be it, Brittany.
Well, amen. I love it. So tell everybody kind of like what's next for you. What can everyone, be excited to hear what's upcoming for you?
So I made a big leap this year. At the end of 2023, I left my corporate role, which has been amazing, but just to start my journey as an entrepreneur. So I am so excited to be building out my own platform, and I will have workshops and different offerings where you can explore gratitude as a practice, work on intention, goal setting, positivity. So that's going to be rolling out very shortly. And I'm excited that I'm working on a second book, which is a little different. This one is fiction, but with a message. So I'd say it's a little bit more spiritual, and it's amazing to be writing again. So I'm really excited to be writing a second book.
Well, it's cool to hear you say that it's fiction with the message, because I feel like, you know, most fiction authors, there's some kind of theme that's weaved in there, in which, I mean, I can say that because that's what I did with mine, but that's often what I hear when I'm talking to other fiction authors, is there's some kind of life theme in there that you're trying to, like, what's it really about? So that's cool to hear that you're working on that.
Yeah, it's very. I can't wait to share more. It's coming along really well.
Yay, awesome. Well, tell everybody what's the best way to connect with you online, find your book, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So I have a website, KristineWNewell.com, and Kristine with a K, WNewell.com, and that's where I have updates. You can buy the book, The Habit of Grateful, on Amazon, and also check me out on Instagram at Kristine W. Newell. So I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, Kristine, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the just that you shared your story, and because you did, it has impacted so many people, including myself. So thank you so much for doing that. And I'll hold up the book again for everybody to see. Go go follow Kristine on Instagram and check out her book. You will love it, I promise. So thank you, Kristine, so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Brittany.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye.